Hi there guys, how are you today, and welcome to my review of the 2017 Canadian Grand Prix. So, Canadian Grand Prix, 7th round of the season. It's quite a good race actually, so let's get into this review. So, Lewis Hamilton led home a Mercedes 1-2 in this week's Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton started on pole position, his 65th pole position in his career, which matches his hero Ayrton Senna, a huge moment for him in qualifying. And he got, as a sort of surprise, a replica Senna helmet. I think he's going to be sent a real one soon as well. It's a pretty cool weekend for him, and yes, he won the Grand Prix. And to be honest, there's not much to say about him because he dominated the race. We hardly saw him on TV, to be honest, so not much more to say about him. Second place was Valtteri Bottas, as I said, completing the Mercedes 1-2. He started in third place. He benefited from the Ferrari struggling a bit. I'll talk about that soon. And again, he also had a very quiet race. We didn't really see the Mercedes this week. They dominated the Grand Prix, and ultimately they've got a 1-2. And Hamilton has caught up in the Drivers' Championship. They've overtaken Ferrari and Constructors. Perfect weekend for them, because we thought they might have struggled again like they did in Monaco. But as it turned out, that didn't happen, and they can't really complain about this week's race. Third place was Daniel Ricciardo. He had maybe a slightly lucky race, maybe a slightly fortunate, because his teammate Max Verstappen broke down, as I'll get on to later, and Vettel and Raikkonen both had issues, and that allowed Daniel Ricciardo to come in third place. But the good news, we got to see the shoey, which, as you know, when he drinks the champagne out of his racing shoe, and that was pretty cool to see. And I like it when Ricciardo's on the podium. He's a really good guy in F1. He's a great driver, and he was able to do it. But you can see from his fastest laps, Ricciardo isn't near the pace of the Mercedes or the Ferraris. For example, so Ricciardo's fastest lap was a 1 minute 16.1, while Hamilton's fastest lap was a 1 minute 14.5, the fastest lap of the race, showing the pace difference between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. After us here, fourth place, Sebastian Vettel. He had a pretty interesting race. He had a little collision at turn 1. I think it was just a racing incident just between Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel, and that led to Vettel essentially losing his part of his front wing, and he needed a new one, which for some reason they didn't do under the safety car, which happened after another crash in lap 1. But they did it after, and he managed to fight through the field and came in P4. 5th and 6th for the Force Indias. This is probably one of the biggest talking points of the race. So towards the end of the race, they were in 4th and 5th place, both chasing Daniel Ricciardo in his Red Bull. And obviously they knew that Vettel was coming quickly behind on fresher tyres. And Ocon wanted to be able to get past Perez to have a go at overtaking Ricciardo, but Perez didn't allow that to happen, and there was quite a few incidents, and Ocon was forced wide by Vettel as well. And yeah, their driver debrief within their team must have been pretty interesting, because Ocon, must be very disappointed not to have had a chance to get a podium, but ultimately they got overtaken by Sebastian Vettel. But it may not have happened if Ocon would have been allowed to chase after Ricciardo. And I guess, guys, that's a big question for this video. What do you guys think of team orders? Do you think they should be allowed? But the other thing, it does show how good Ocon is to be able to race with these guys. He was running second for a long time in this race, but he hadn't made a pit stop yet. I think Ocon is a real future star in F1. But then again, I think Perez has the potential to be world champion too. And this could be some teammate rivalry starting at the Force India team. So Kimi Raikkonen was 7th. Again, there's lots of hints about team orders at Ferrari again. But Raikkonen did run into some trouble towards the end of the race with his car, but it was especially as Vettel was right behind him, so it's a little bit dodgy that. But I don't know whether we'll ever know for sure. We will only know for sure whether there's team orders if they actually tell Raikkonen to get out of the way. Then we will know for sure, but for now, we have to be a bit skeptical about saying either way. 8th place was Nico Hülkenberg. He had a bit of a up and down race. He had a lot of overtaking to do. There's lots of action in the midfield, and Hülkenberg was involved in a lot of the action. And he managed to come P8, showing he can race. Also, Sebastian Vettel showed he could really race this weekend, which was good to see. Now, 9th place, another talking point of this Grand Prix, Lance Stroll. Brilliant result for him, actually. He can be very happy with that. He's been struggling a lot this season. People have been criticising him. But to get his first 2 points in his F1 career at his home race in Canada, he'll be happy with that. And he also showed lots of overtaking. Yes, he had to overtake lots of slower cars like McLaren Hondas, but he still overtake them. He didn't crash. Everyone thought he'd probably end up in the World of Champions, and that'd be quite ironic because he's not a champion. But he actually had a very strong performance in the race, especially in the race. Okay, yes, he had a difficult qualifying, only starting 17th, but in the race he did pretty well. There was no crashing. He weaved occasionally, I thought, but it wasn't too bad. And he'll be delighted with it, and he'll be hoping in Baku in a couple of weeks' time to continue his great performances. P10, Roman Grosjean. Again, he was involved in an incident on lap 1, which I'll still talk about in this video. But he was able to recover from having to make a pit stop, I believe, an early pit stop, to come to into P10 to get some points for the Haas team. Jolyon Palmer, 11th place. Slightly stronger weekend for him this week. He did actually get into Q2 just about, which is quite good for him. And he was close to points, but he still hasn't really got any points. And we didn't really see much of him this weekend. And to be honest, when we have seen stuff from him in the Grand Prix, it's normally been bad stuff. So maybe not seeing too much of him has been a positive thing. And he has also had races where he hasn't been able to finish, he has some bad luck. So maybe he can improve, and maybe his first points will be in a few weeks' time at Silverstone, in the same way as Stroll's first points were at his home race in Canada. So Kevin Magnussen, the other Haas driver, finished in P12. I wasn't too happy with his driving this weekend. He had a lot of weaving, lots of penalties. He overtook under the safety, virtual safety car even. Some of his driving was pretty aggressive. I like Magnussen, but I don't think he was quite on it in the Grand Prix yesterday. He just wasn't up to scratch, and that's why he didn't score any points. Well, he has had a reasonable season so far. Marcus Ericsson was in P13. That's a strong result for a Sauber driver, I assume. Although we didn't see much of the Saubers that much this weekend, apart from Verline crashing in qualifying. But we know they are the backmarker team, the real backmarker team. And to beat a couple of other cars is quite a good result for Marcus Ericsson, especially with Pascal Verline being the main driver in that team. Dan Dorn was P14 in McLaren. Good result to finish the race. Shame we couldn't get any points or anything like that. But it's a good result for Van Dorn to finish the race. And he did get overtaken quite a few times down the straight. Yes, of course McLaren did struggle a little bit this weekend. But you would sort of expect that, to be honest. You know, with the lack of power, they would struggle on the long straights. Back straight particularly. And that really hindered them this weekend, and they have to sort something out. And there are rumours they might get some help from Ross Brawn, or they might even separate from Honda. McLaren might separate from Honda in the next few weeks or something. And of course Alonso has said if they're not winning by September, he will leave the team. Now that is a big threat. Whether that would actually happen or not, we can't really tell. And then P15, final finishers, Pascal Verline. Again, we know the story of Sauber. They're always going to struggle at all these races, unless something crazy happens. But he'll be glad to finish the race after his crash in qualifying, and of course he did start from the pit lane. And what can they do? I guess it just didn't quite work out for him or the Sauber team, and they'll be hoping to improve and get some more points in the next few races. As for the guys who retired, Fernando Alonso, he retired on lap 66. Engine failure. He was running close to the point, so he may have got a point or two in this race. You can never tell, had he not broken down. But sadly, it wasn't to be for him. A bit like at Indy 500, where he broke down when he was in the lead, I believe, of the Indy 500. Daniel Kvyat also retired, this time on lap 54. He had a tough race, actually. He didn't get off the line for the formation lap, and then he got a penalty, because once he got off the line, you have to overtake the other cars by a certain point on the formation lap. And I think that's a stupid rule, to be quite honest with you. As long as he's in the right position by the time the grid reforms for the official start of the race, that's all that matters, really. So I think he got some stupid penalties, and they also gave him the wrong penalty for it. So he basically had two penalties, and then he had an issue with the pit stop which led to him retiring. I don't know exactly what happened. And yeah, so a bit of a bad weekend for Daniel Kvyat. Still one of the unluckiest drivers in Formula 1. Max Verstappen, he had a superb start to the race, going from P5 to P2 around the outside. Yes, there was a tiny bit of collision with Sebastian Vettel, which ruined Vettel's race. But Verstappen was running well in P2. After the safety car, he put a bit of pressure on Hamilton, but not too much. But sadly, on lap 10, he lost all power, and that was the end of his race. Now, the final people to talk about is Massa and Carlos Sainz. This is a controversial moment of the race. They basically, I think Sainz Sainz hit Grosjean, and that caused Sainz to spin, and he spun into Massa, which caused them both to retire, while Grosjean was able to continue in this race. And it was a big crash for Carlos Sainz, actually, really scary. And Massa was completely innocent. And I believe Carlos Sainz has been given a penalty for Baku in a couple of weeks. A grid penalty, so he's been punished for that. I think Sainz was a little bit too aggressive. He squeezed Grosjean. Grosjean has said that Sainz should be given a race ban. A bit like Grosjean was given after Belgium 2012 when he did some squeezing on the first lap. And yeah, I think Sainz's driving was quite dangerous. And of course we have to feel sorry for Felipe Massa. And to be honest, I think Sainz has been a little bit questionable this year. I know he's under a lot of pressure to try to get a Red Bull seat or a Ferrari seat or something, but he's made quite a few mistakes and that might cost his whole career. So yeah, we are coming towards the end of the video, and overall I would say this is a pretty good race. There's good overtaking, a lot of midfield battles. A shame there wasn't really anything, for the lead of the race. Hamilton was able to dominate and Mercedes dominated. We didn't see much of them this weekend, but it's nice to know that hasn't been the story of the season like it has been in previous years. And we know that the F1 season is still pretty close and pretty exciting. So yeah, I would rate this race maybe a 7 out of 10. It would have been better had the upper end of the field been more exciting, and maybe had Verstappen been able to stay in the race. And I want to ask you guys, what do you think of Carlos Sainz? Do you think he's under pressure this season? Where do you think he'll be next season? And how do you think he's been performing this season? And also, what do you think of what happened to Force India? Should Perez have let Ocon go? What would you have said to Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon after the race if you were the head of Force India? So yeah, tell me in the comments for that, and I'll see you for a review of Baku in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you really enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this and other types of videos, please subscribe to my channel. If you have anything to say in the comments, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Also, go and check out the video that should be on screen right now, and come and follow me on Twitter, BigGaming342, and Facebook, BigGaming342, and I'll see you guys very soon. Goodbye.